Hi everyone, John here from All Miniatures Great and Small, and today we're going to be unboxing and taking a look at the French Navy fleet for Black Seas from Warlord Games. This is the French starter set for Black Seas. So if you're not familiar with Black Seas is an Age of Sail miniatures game. So that means Napoleonics, American Revolution, that time period. So the core game itself has several nations, the ones you would think of normally, like the British, the French, the Spanish, the Americans are in there. And a lot of these ships can be used for other nations. A lot of capturing and reusing of ships went on during that period, so that's totally fine. Now I picked this up from online at a pretty discounted rate. I was pretty happy, but normally I think this runs about 120 US. What do you get for your money? You get, well, all that, those beautiful ships there on the cover, but let's flip it over and take a look at the contents. You get one resin and metal first rate. That is a classification of ship. That is the largest ship in the game, typically 100 guns or more. You get 3 plastic third rate ships, which are these guys, and those are typically 74 gun ships. So they're like your bruisers, your typical battleship. There were a lot of those. First rates and the rare second rates were, very, you don't see those except maybe leading a fleet. Nelson's Victory was a first rate. So you get 3 plastic third rates, 3 plastic frigates, 6 plastic brigs, 1 resin and metal gunboat squadron. Then you get metal backplates and figureheads to build famous third rates and frigates. You also get the ship cards, weight cards, assembly guide, French Navy flags, sail sheets, rigging thread, and printed acetate rat lines. Now I will say at the time that I am filming this, I actually picked up 2 of these because it was such a good sale. 2 of these would have been the price of one, like one at full retail. So I figured I just got 2 of these, and we'll use half of them as British or Spanish and the other half as French. There are some compromises to doing that, but it worked out for me. So I've already actually opened one of these and started construction on some of the models. So I know what we're going to see here. Hopefully this one was packed the same way. We'll see if Ronnie did the packing this time. So what you get, the box is pretty small. I was surprised how small the box is, but it's jam-packed full of goodness, so good on them. And it's just packed full of stuff. All right, so let's save those for the end. You've got a couple of sprues. Hey, it is Ronnie. Thanks, Ronnie. You got 3 sprues of brigs. Each one has 2, so you got 6 brigs. You have 3 frigate frames. And these are the same brigs and frigates that you get in the Master and Commander starter box. Then you get 3 of these third rates. So these are the big ships, and you notice, it's got 2 decks of guns plus guns on the main deck. So these are generic. They're sold a couple of different ways. There's a generic third rate box that you just, you can build them for any nation you want, except for the United States, which didn't really build these. So you can build them generically, or like in this particular box set, it comes with some custom nameplates, so you can do some famous ships. All right, so those are the third rates. So far we have looked at 12 ships so far you get in the set. Then you've got the instructions on, here's the French first rate. That's the big one, which is basically all metal and resin. The masts are metal. Then you have the game cards, sails, rat lines, all little doodads you need to play. You have third-rate instructions and frigate instructions. On the back of that, you've got brig instructions. You've got thread. So I've been in this game for a couple weeks. I'm starting to build up a small collection of thread, but it's cool that they include it for rigging if you want to attempt that. Then you've got the resin pieces, which are appropriately protected here in bubble wrap. So this is the gunboat, and it's very nicely sculpted. 3 to a base, and then you get metal sails. So you do get that. Then really the star of the show, and each nation's fleet box has something like this, except that, again, the Americans are kind of the oddball. So you have this awesome sculpt of a French 100 gun first-rate ship of the line, and just look at all those guns. You can see the detail on the deck, the background, and oh, there's one bubble there, but it's totally in a spot you can't really see. Just a beautiful looking ship. So this, I know this is the French version. They do have a generic 100 gun British and Spanish version, I believe. I'm not sure on the Spanish one. And then they have named, like I mentioned before, first-rate ships, like the Victory for the British. I forget the giant French one, but it's got like 120 guns. But it's pretty cool. So then here, these are the sails and all the extra little doodads you need for your first rate. Okay. Then here, and this is packed by someone else, Gianpaolo, we have the back plates and the fronts of the ships. Now here we have the back plates and the figureheads. That's the word I was looking for the ship. So you can build 6 historical ships from this set if you wanted to, which is really cool because part of the interest that I have for this kind of game is the historical aspect. There is a big what-if aspect to this game, but I do like the historical aspect. So you have these. We'll look a little bit closer at this, but I'll show this on the back because they show all of these painted. So you have the Aigle, which I'm sure is French for eagle, Redoutable, Bucentier. I'm sorry, my French friends, if I'm mispronouncing it. Please correct me in the comments. The comment, Hermione, the Themis. Pretty cool. So each one has a matching, figurehead and backplate. So those are all well and good, but as I mentioned, I already opened up and started building the other one. So what I found with these backplates was a couple of issues that you guys should know about if you're considering a box set like this. So this is the backplate for a third rate. Now I just happen to have a third rate that I already started, and this is the Redoutable, so this is the metal plate. But, and I already corrected this and primed it, well, at least the best of my ability here, but you might see a right under these windows, this is green stuff. This backplate hung a couple of millimeters under the under the stern of the ship, and it's not realistic. It doesn't look good. and you can't really trim that easily to make it fit because the name is at the bottom and you want the name, and you don't want to slide it up too high because it would be ridiculously high, and there's giant metal tabs that lock it in at that position. So basically what I did was I put green stuff in there and sanded it to make it flat and flush, and called it a day. The frigates have the same problem, and that is the Hermione, and I did the same thing with some green stuff under there. I think painted, and since you're always looking at it from this angle, you're not going to notice, but I noticed assembling it, and so that's my solution. So if that would bother you and you don't want to go through the solution of that, either ignore these, don't use them, or live with the fact that there's the overhang. And you probably, in gameplay, you probably wouldn't really notice too much. But if you're a fan of the ships and want to make them as realistic as possible, considering the medium, consider not using them. Now the backplates that come with the ships are perfectly fine, and they do fit much better. So for example, this is the third rate, and this is a plastic backplate. It comes with 3 generic ones, and there's no harm in using the generic ones are just as fine, and just write their name off to the side so that you know which one's which. But it's kind of cool, and then you can kind of see just how much bigger these ones are than those ones. So it's just kind of, so it like overhangs the bottom of the ship by almost that much, by the whole name. So there you go. That's just my warning. It doesn't turn me off from the set necessarily. I was a little disappointed that it didn't fit out of the box. It seemed like something that they would check, but again, it's not that not that big a deal. There are ways to work around it, and again, you are working with the hobby aspect of this, so consider that a bonus hobby element, if you will. All right, so that's what you get with the French set. I guess I could talk a little bit about the game components, although there's not too much to go over here because it's just the standard stuff that's in Master and Commander and all that. You've got a lot of stuff in here, though. You've got all of the ship cards, so there's 1 card for every ship, so that's gonna be like 13 cards. You've got the rat lines, these acetate rat lines, which if you saw my What's on the Table Black Seas edition, you know that I'm not a big fan of these just because of the way that we do things here at All Miniatures Great and Small. With all the lights that we use, it catches the glare way too much. So when it's on a ship, it's obvious it's not a bunch of ropes hanging down. It's a clear plastic thing and kind of kills the immersion. But again, that's because of how we do things here at All Miniatures Great and Small with our filming lights. At a normal table, that might not be that big a deal, and at a more normal distance, you wouldn't really have a problem. These things are templates. Basically, they're a way to mark your ships at light sails, battle sails, full sails, and it kind of follows behind the ship in gameplay. That's the theory behind these anyway. So you have, enough for all of the ships, and then you have the sails for everything. You have the paper flag sheet. So many flags. You can make pirate versions of the ships. That's kind of cool. So there you go. That is a pretty quick unboxing and look at the French starter set for Black Seas. Black Seas is, captured my imagination. I love this time period. I love naval warfare. So it's definitely scratching an itch that I have. The rules look pretty simple and straightforward. I will be having a how to play video on this sometime soon, sooner rather than later, and probably followed by a battle report so you can see it in action. So ultimately, you guys can decide if this is something you want to pursue. I like these games that come out like this, that they're just kind of a niche within our niche hobby. You know, this is never going to be a 40K competitor or a Flames of War competitor. It's just too specific. But it's a lot of fun, and I gotta say, I know this is outside the scope of this review, but they are kind of increasing the whimsy, if you will, by releasing a monsters set. So like the Kraken and I think there's a giant narwhal and a shark, and so all kinds of cool things. So it's good to know they're not taking themselves seriously, but they still are, you know, sticking to their historical roots as far as the ships go. So I like that dichotomy, that breakdown, that separation, and looking forward to playing more. So there you go, guys. As always, please do leave your comments down below. Let us know what you think about Black Seas and these miniatures and the backplate issue and all that good stuff. As always, please do click that bell so you receive a notification for whenever we post new content. As always, thanks for watching, though, and keep on wargaming.